As we walked with Josette and her family around their home and land, a bulldozer approached. Soon after, some of the mercenaries I described showed up to intimidate us and discourage us from talking with these families. As we prepared to leave, bestowing little but words of support and a promise to raise these issues with decision makers as best we could, Josette became overwrought. Her tears provoked my own. After we had driven a mile or two from Josette's house, we were stopped and questioned at a police checkpoint that had appeared quite likely because of our presence. As we drove on, all I could think about was the reality of living in this environment, where rule of law is fragile and security is tenuous. I pondered the role that foreign actors play, how export development wreaks havoc in the lives of people like Josette and the 70% of Haitians who engage in small-scale subsistence farming. While this was perhaps the most striking and disturbing experience of my 2 weeks in Haiti, so many conversations I shared with smallholder farmers and women working in the informal sector evoked similar questions. I thought constantly about my own freedoms and immense privileges, juxtaposed with the fragility and uncertainty of so many Haitian lives. So why did I choose to share this story with you today? That experience, standing by the roadside with these families who soon lose so much, their homes, their livelihoods, their sense of place and purpose, brought into focus for me a theme that emerged and reemerged consistently throughout the course of my time in Haiti: solidarity. It's a concept that I pondered and puzzled over during the 2 weeks. It's a concept that recurs frequently in the context of my work with grassroots organizations who fight to claim their rights from governments that largely ignore them. How do we dispel with conceptions of us and them? How do we reconcile ourselves to our mutuality and, in my belief, the random chaos of the universe that bestows upon one person immense privilege and another unyielding hardship? How can we work to identify and name edifices of injustice and structural systemic violence? How do we educate ourselves and our children in a way that is revelatory? Last weekend, I had the privilege of hearing Beverly Bell, who's the founder of an organization called Other Worlds, and one of the fiercest advocates for grassroots social movements that I know, read aloud from her new book entitled Fault Lines: Views Across Haiti's Divide. The epilogue to Bev's book articulates the concept of solidarity in a way that I cannot. So I'm going to read just a brief excerpt from the epilogue. Bev writes of Haiti after the earthquake. Historian Rebecca Solnick tells us that the written Chinese word for crisis combines the ideograms for disaster and opportunity. Given the bleak landscape, the rest of us might be tempted to think that the Haitian people are losing their shot at the opportunities in the disaster. But any number of factors could reverse the recent downward trajectory of the majority's well-being and power. It may well be that the final drop phenomenon is at work. Many small gestures of non-compliance and resistance, some almost invisible and weightless on their own, are slowly rising. Who knows how or when the spread of the reservoir from the accumulation of all those drops may break the dam and change the landscape altogether. But regardless of what changes social movements are able to force within their country, Haitians will remain trapped as long as the rules of global political and economic power remain unchanged. For that reason, how the disaster opportunity dyad plays out is up to us too. We all have an important role in it, for Haiti and our country. Yannick, a Haitian friend, said to me, "As Haiti alone, we can't get to the radical solutions that we need. It has to be a worldwide movement, in America, Europe, and Africa. This is why solidarity is so important. One hand has to give to the other." Those of us from the United States carry an added burden because of the disproportionate power our country has over everyone else. People throughout the world have told me that the most useful action U.S. Americans can take is to work for change at home, because altering popular belief systems and government policies in this country will reverberate around the planet. If for no other reason, we have to work together because we are all strapped to one globe. Martin Luther King Jr. said that none of us is free until all of us is free. None of us is environmentally or economically or physically secure either until all of us are. We are all living the blowback of pollution, climate change, undemocratic global governance, corporate control, and war. None of us can save ourselves in isolation, given the globalized, systemic nature of the problems. Personal or local acts alone won't cut it. Rico Philippe Jean-Pierre of the Haitian Platform to Advocate Alternative Development presented another way to think about this when I interviewed him a few weeks after the earthquake. How can we as peoples develop ways to support each other when we have common problems? How can we get together to show that the battle is against a common enemy, which is the source of poverty and marginalization? We want to create another world that's based on solidarity and equality between men and women, rich and poor, north and south, not just one above and another below being exploited. We need to develop other forms of cooperation between and among peoples. We need to learn how we each can complement and learn from one another. Close collaboration between peoples from Haiti and other countries make at least 2 additional contributions. First is what we get to learn from Haitians' long and powerful organizing experience that we can use to fortify our own. Haitians are superb teachers in how to refuse to believe the lies, refuse to be silenced, refuse to be intimidated, refuse to accept the unacceptable, refuse to acquiesce. Gender-based and sexual violence. It was a huge problem when people were living in camps after the earthquake and remains a problem. And for a lot of women, this impacts their ability to earn livelihoods because they can't necessarily securely travel alone for fear of theft and attack and worse. These were some little girls I stumbled across who asked me to take their picture because I was taking pictures of everything else. These are the smoldering fields I referred to. So this is part of the plot of land that the Haitian government is taking back from smallholder farmers who've been farming this land for a long time and built upon it. And it's a Venezuelan company that will come in and grow bananas for export. Some of the rubble piles that I mentioned. And this is the family that one of the families that we spoke with, along with some of the peasant leaders that we were working with. So you can see their lifestyle is modest, but sustainable. You know, they are able to feed themselves. And this is Josette standing next to some of the rubble. These guys weren't very happy when I started taking pictures of them. Yeah. This is another one of her neighbors. He's actually standing in front of a house. This is really common. People will start building houses and they'll have to wait until they earn more income to finish the houses. So this is a partially finished house which will never be finished. And then to flip the script a little bit, some of the hopeful things that we saw included a visit we took to the Central Plateau in Haiti. So I mentioned that Haiti has experienced almost total deforestation. Really, in less than a century, it's gone from being 67% forested of the Haitian half of the island to less than 2%. Yeah, it's devastating. But this area in the Central Plateau where the peasant movement really started, the peasant movement in Haiti is just, it's an amazing thing to behold. The conviction of these people, the intelligence, the vision they have for creating sort of alternative economies and a new way of living is, it's pretty amazing given the context, and it definitely speaks to Haiti's history of sort of struggle and activism. But anyway, they've taken this area in the Central Plateau and they have basically engaged in kind of bioreclamation. They've planted trees and they've generated biodiversity that actually reflects the natural environment that existed before it was heavily deforested. And so they're engaging in all sorts of sustainable agricultural processes, growing organic food, and they work very much in cooperation in small cooperative groups and whatnot. So if somebody needs a hand up, the process is in place for folks to sort of support one another. And the really cool thing about this is we stayed with this organization, the Peasant Movement of Papai, and saw some of their projects, which are actually funded by the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee in part. So that was really neat. So these are called eco-villages, and this is really UUSC's big project. And we just happen to be working with the same organization that UUSC works with. We all kind of work in a big coalition. Oh, sorry.
Bring the microphone around. speak, just turn it
Yeah, that's
forward.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. All right, thanks.
Or if you want handheld, like you disconnect.
Thanks. Okay. So this is one of the houses in the eco-villages, and again, this probably doesn't look like much, but this is pretty amazing by Haitian standards. Having sort of a plot of land with room to garden, having that corrugated tin roof, and this is structurally sound, right? This isn't going to come crashing down in an earthquake, which is really neat. And so folks are growing seedlings, they're generating their own seeds and seed banks, which is a really big deal in places where, Monsanto and other big sort of agricultural businesses are trying to come in and basically eliminate what these folks refer to as seed sovereignty, and force them to buy new seeds again and again instead of regenerating their own seeds, which really, creates a significant level of economic autonomy. So this was cool. They've taken old tires and repurposed them for these gardens, which is really neat. And this is a practice that can be used in urban settings where there's not really room for gardening to help folks grow their own food.